The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to All You Can Eat. You know, it's the podcast about deliciousness, and I am your host, Rob Rosenthal. You can call me Rob. Call me whatever you want, actually. I am delighted to be here. Thank you for tuning in. If you're coming in live, of course. I do this on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then by tomorrow, we'll have this podcast archived all over the internet universe, if you will. Everything from Spreaker and YouTube to iHeartRadio and SoundCloud. Anyway, excited to be with you here on Wednesday night. What is the date? We are looking at, what was it, the 5th? Yeah, September the 5th, and I'm coming to you live on September the 5th from New York City, New York, my home base. Today, and this happens, by the way, in August and September. There should be no surprise, but it's one of those days that it's not comfortable to be outside in this part of the world, in the sense that it's like 88 degrees and 90% humidity, and just you go outside and you begin to perspire. Here, however, I sit with you at this hour inside in an airless studio with a fan operating in the background. But because of the warmth, the atmosphere, and all that kind of stuff, you might hear a fan blowing in the background. And I will tell you two other things about my current situation. One is that I'm wearing the minimum amount of clothes that a boy can wear so as to minimize the impact of the heat and humidity. And I am, because it is 8:04 Eastern Time, enjoying an adult beverage. It should come as no surprise to anybody who knows me, but over the last couple of days, my last trip to Costco, I'm your Costco ho. I picked up a giant watermelon. The thing about the giant watermelon is you can just keep eating it every day, and there's always more watermelon. Good news is, when it came to cocktail time, I knew exactly what I was going to do.
See you later.
See you, baby. God, it's unbelievable. This is episode 26. Not a single episode of 26 has there not been some technical glitch or malfunction. Call it what you want. But I'm going to turn that speaker back on later. Anyway, I was talking about watermelon, and I have a NutriBullet. And the way that I conceive nutrition at 8 p.m. is I take the watermelon and blend it up, add a little bit of sweet and sour mix, or fresh lime juice and a touch of agave, whatever you like, and then some tequila. Drinking myself a watermelon margarita. I am drinking a watermelon margarita. I'm sitting here close to being naked, coming to you live from New York. Excited, though, to be here and to be here with you. Got a full menu today, if you will, in spite of the fact that I have no guest. In fact, when I woke up, honestly, this morning, I thought, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I've got no clue what's coming on tonight, and yet I feel once again that I have ample ammunition to get us through this hour talking about food, everything from recipes that come from Jacques Pepin, that come from Food and Wine, that come from New York Times food section, which publishes every Wednesday. There's some other super interesting stuff in the news about, you know, what to do at a bakery when you're online. Very funny piece of work. Bakery lines are the worst is the title of that article. And I also am reporting, again, I don't know, there's been a lot of passing away in the food world, in the culinary world. This week, Monday, a guy by the name of Kenny Shopson passes away. Shopson is a legend in the New York food circle, with a restaurant down in on the Lower East Side called Shopson's General Store officially. Been around since '83, so we're talking about 35 years. And it's legendary because he was an unbelievable character. Here, let me tell you what it says in today's New York Times. Kenny Shopson, brash owner of a quirky restaurant, dies at 76. Kenny Shopson, colorful proprietor of fabled Manhattan restaurant where the menu is vast and the customer has never been king, died on Sunday at his home in the West Village at 76. Shopson and his wife opened up their restaurant in 1983. He didn't like publicity, Shopson. He didn't want to be listed in diners' guides because he said such attention had the annoying effect of attracting customers. It's funny. His was a classic neighborhood restaurant. He did not want to become a tourist attraction. He was not averse to throwing someone out who didn't seem to get the chatty, casual, clutter look and feel of the place. In fact, the place had rules. And if you didn't abide by the rules, Kenny would throw you out of his place. Quote, by kicking them out, what I'm doing is respecting the fact that they don't belong here, he explained in Eat Me, The Food and Philosophy of Kenny Shopson, a book he wrote in 2008, with some reluctance, he said, because it had the potential to attract more of these very type of customers. He used the restaurant's formidable menu, often described as offering 900 selections at its most expansive, as a sort of crowd control menu. He said, I hang a menu out in front of the restaurant, which a lot of places do in the hope of enticing customers to come by, showing them what they have to offer, he wrote. I do it for the opposite reason. I put the menu there to dissuade people from coming in. My menu is 6 pages long, and there's a lot of stuff crammed on those pages. The stuff includes mac and cheese pancakes, a fry pan hodgepodge called Blisters on My Sisters, egg plates with the name like Krakatoa and Leaky Boat, Leaky, L-E-E-K-Y, and lots of soups and sandwiches. In Eater, critic Robert Siestema writes his R.I.P. column, remembering Kenny Shopson, an abrasive yet unforgettable part of New York City dining. Extensive menus, pure invention, favorite dishes. Oh, here's what he says about him. Towering, ample of girth, and given to wearing a black t-shirt and suspenders. Kenny was a memorable figure, especially when seated on his motorcycle riding to work from his apartment. He often wore a bandana handkerchief as a headband, perhaps a vestige of bygone hippie days, and a fringe of graying hair peeped out underneath. In earlier times with his wife Eve, she passed away in 2003, she ran the front of the house, which was decorated with big jars of forgotten candies. It was understood that you were permitted to help yourself for free. The best way to kind of describe Kenny is I have his book, Eat Me, The Food and Philosophy of Kenny Shopson. And here's a little bit from his book to give you. This is the best way to get a sense of who the guy was and what he meant to the kind of scene here in New York. He said, on the pleasure of cooking, and I love this because this is really, I can so identify with this. He said, I cook about 90 dozen eggs every Saturday and every Sunday, and I enjoy cooking them each time. I like cracking the eggs into a bowl. When I'm making scrambled eggs, I like breaking the yolks and whisking them with cream. I like watching the ripples form as they cook, and I like the process of gently running my fork through cooked eggs to create space for the raw egg to hit the pan. And no matter how many times I do it, I still like it. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing. I don't come to the task from a place of drudgery or boredom. I come to it from a place of curiosity and love. To be a good cook, you have to. And actually, I think that is spot on. Because it occurs to me, I cook a lot. I cook more than most, but truth of the matter is, I never really think about it as drudgery. I don't think about it as a boredom. I don't think about it as a task. I actually like doing it. So I really identify with that. Here's Kenny on not allowing special requests. Most of the time, when a customer makes a special request, he says, it's not about the food, but rather his own desire to be in control and to establish his own specialness. Making people feel special through this kind of ass-kissing is one of the services that a restaurant can provide to people who need it, but it's not a service that I want to provide. Some people tell me that they're deathly allergic to something, and that I have to make sure it's not in their food. I kick them out. I don't want to be responsible for anyone's life or death situation. I tell them they should go eat at a hospital. He's funny, this guy. Excuse me while I take a sip of margarita, whatever the hell this is. And finally, on Kenny Shops, and may he rest in peace, on how to cook a burger. Try to resist the impulse to press down on the patties with a spatula while they're cooking. This not only presses the juices right out of them, it compresses the meat, and that combination defeats the point of everything you've done up to this point. I still do it from time to time. I can't help myself. I guess it's a lot like masturbating. I feel really good while I'm doing it, but then I feel bad afterward. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Kenny Shopson, may he rest in peace. Reminds me that I wanted to start today with today's lunch. I found myself in New Jersey. I believe the town was Ridgewood. And the establishment was an operation called It's Greek to Me. I believe they have more than one. And I've been before. And I had some tiramisu Lotta, which you know is the caviar roe, the red caviar. And it's creamy, right? And so for 100 years I thought, oh, there's got to be some kind of creaminess in this. What is it, sour cream? Man, I don't know. But I love it. But you have to like that red, caviar roe, because that's what gives it the saltiness and the fishy flavor, and I do. And then I learned ultimately that there's not a bit of cream in this thing. Even as creamy as it is, it's made with basically a combination of olive oil and bread. That's what creates that texture, and then it has the caviar roe in it. And you have that with, of course, warm slices of pita bread. Now, I would like, if I went to a Greek restaurant, that they were serving superior pita bread rather than average, mundane, run-of-the-mill, cookie-cutter pita bread. But even so, when it comes to your table, warm and sliced in those kind of little triangular pieces, and you dip it in that tiramisu Lotta, that's a beautiful thing. And then somebody else came and ordered the baba ganoush. Now, I'm going to say that much as I enjoy a good eggplant, which is the primary ingredient in your baba ganoush, I'm not a big baba ganoush fan, but this was the best I ever had. Slightly smoky, even slightly sweet, a little bit of garlic. Man, that was good. And then I went with the Greek salad. And when you have a Greek salad, while it's fine on its own, it's always a little bit better when you top it with something. What are the choices? You want grilled shrimp. You can have probably grilled steak. You can go with grilled chicken, obviously. I've been to places where they'll grill the octopus. It's one of my favorite foods. Octopus is, again, one of those foods that shows up on a list of food that people are just deathly afraid of, not for any reason having to do with the actual taste of the food, which is enormously fantastic and gratifying. Maybe not even the texture, because I would argue that you could put a piece of octopus in your mouth and a piece of chicken in your mouth, and the texture would be more or less parallel. People are afraid of octopus because it sounds funny and it looks funny. People don't like uni, sea urchin. And that, I suppose, is understandable because it's the essence of the sea, so it's very intensely kind of sea-worthy-ish. And that texture is kind of soft and creamy, and that orange. Anyway, the point is, what? I didn't even have the octopus because that wasn't one of my offerings, but one of the offerings was that gyro. I mean, it looks like gyro, Gyro. They pronounce it gyro. It's basically that lamb that's up on a spit, and so threw that on top of the Greek salad, which is which has tomato in it, lettuce, obviously. You have feta cheese, which is crucial to that. Giant chunks of green pepper, excellent. Tomatoes, no problem with that. Those little dolmides, is that what they are? Those little kind of stuffed grape leaves, fine. And the peppers, those kind of hot pickled peppers. And I'm banging that down with a couple more toasted pitas, and I'm telling you, I am sitting here now 7 hours later, I'm still full. But what I would like to say is Greek food, I'm going to say, is underappreciated, given that it's so good, and it's generally speaking so healthy. You guys have heard about the Mediterranean diet, right? Look it up. There's no diet, basically, I think, in the history of mankind. And when I say diet, I don't mean like diet losing weight. I mean like diet, this is how people eat in the Mediterranean part of the world, dominated by, for example, Greece. A lot of vegetables, a lot of fresh fish, olive oil. And these people don't eat a lot of the grain product. You know what I mean? It's not a lot of bread. There's not a ton of pasta. Anyway, super healthy, greatly delicious, and I'm going to say underappreciated relative to all the other foods that we think about. Everybody's running out for Japanese and Mexican. I get that. Korean is hot as heck. Love me some Indian. There's nothing I don't like. But Greek, hello. Love you, baby. Love ya. Greek. Right. Ken Shopson, you've passed away. Greek food we've covered. What else goes on? Before we get into kind of like the recipe section, there were two pieces that caught my attention today. By the way, I hate to do it, but I can't help it. I'm going to actually turn the sound back on my speaker here. There you go. Thank you. You can tell my speaker is on. And it's because I want to have a little menu reading music in the background. Let me see if I can make that work. Two things at once. Studio, if you get me, I'm going to do a little music background, please. Hello. Yeah. And I'd like to read to you from Shopson's menu, because it's still open down there on the Lower East Side. It's no longer 6 pages. It's 8 pages. Everyone has to eat. Let's see. Blisters on my sister. We mentioned that before. Broiled cheddar over sunny side. Pepper, kidney, black beans, collards, onions, tomato, rice, corn, tortillas, in a fried pan. Eggs. Thousands of them. What about the special ones? Oh, here's one for you. What has he got here? He's got scrambled eggs with mac and cheese, pancakes, hash browns, bacon. That's the usual stuff. Then you got country scrambled eggs and toast with pork sausage, potato, goat cheese, and white toast. Then you got hash and eggs, pastrami hash, eggs and cheese on a roll. Then you got the original Pete, broiled jalapeno, garlic jack on ciabatta, scallions, 3 poached eggs, and variations of that, like the Wiggly Pete with pork sausage, jack and tomato. You got your nameplates, like the Hunky Dory, poison duck tempura, jazzy mac, eggs and toast. Love this. What about this? What has he got here? Oh, here's one for you. The S-I-G-H, potato latke sandwich with eggs, cheese, and bacon. Oof. Have that right now. You got your Tex-Mex breakfast down there at Shopson's. Chilaquiles, which is tortillas, eggs, cabbage, beans, kale, and cilantro. You got pancakes. This dude was famous for his pancakes and French toast. Made with, how about this one? Caramel chip pancake. How about the mac and cheese pancake? Or the peanut butter chip pancake, or sun-dried cherries, or slutty stuffed pancakes, or French toast. What are you loading them up with? The hoe cakes, coconut, caramel chip, dulce de leche, cannoli. I'm still on page 3, my friends. How about sandwiches? Mo better. Maple bacon, scrambled eggs, 2 mashed How about your burgers or your chicken parm sliders? Yeah, baby. Sandwiches. What do you got here? Lamb, mint, fig curry, potato, lace, peas, cheesecake, sloppy Jew, ground up corned beef or pastrami Reuben in a burger, slider. Oh, here's my favorite. The 10 condiment sandwich. Run you $24, but you're going to get, on any of these sandwiches, you're going to get on a soft cut hero with garlic, waffle fries, red onion, avocado, lettuce, tomato, jack, cheddar, za'atar spice, poppy seeds, matzoh crunch, and wasabi slaw. And you can put anything on that sandwich from roast turkey and Georgia barbecue pulled pork to a grilled lamb garlic with a feta crisp or duck schnitzel. Then you got your soups. Then you got your Tex-Mex things. 10 different kinds of potatoes, all the different kind of drinks that you want, including the egg cream, the chocolate egg cream, which I would go in for, and etc., including vegan African green curry with nut butter, kale, and cello noodles. And that was Shopson's. Bakery lines. Let's turn off that music for a second. So much for the menu reading music, and now let's go with one more bit of noise here as I turn off the speaker.
See you later.
Yep. Back. Bakery lines are the worst in the issue of Eater magazine, written by Ryan Sutton. Waiting in line at New York bakeries easily ranks among the city's most aggravating gastronomic experiences. In fact, I'll go even further. Waiting in line at these purported confectionery happiness factories can be slow enough, painful enough, and mind-numbing enough to make you want to dance a crazy person jig and paint half your face blue like Braveheart. So the problem here, according to Mr. Sutton, is that people don't know what the hell they're doing when they get on a bakery line. They take too long. They're indecisive. They order too many things. There's some psychology to explain why this happened. People revert to a childlike state in the presence of caramelized sugar, polychromatic candied fruit, or basic things cut into pretty shapes and garnished with sprinkles. I call this momentary regression, this is according to Mr. Sutton, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Syndrome, CFS, a nod to the absurdly irrational decisions that a group of ill-fated children with deep character flaws make when visiting Willy Wonka's edible den of horrors. And while no one obviously puffs up into a blue-tinged balloon in real life, CFS is surely what causes customers to fall into a dilly-dally daze or make the type of unreasonable request that would get them sent to the back of the line at a no-nonsense Midtown deli. Cynical, he confesses to that. And he says this, though. Here are his suggestions to help make sure things keep chugging along efficiently. Allow me to present a series of guidelines to make sure the New York bakery and patisserie experience is as streamlined as visiting a diner or a bagel shop. Number one, know what you want and eat pastry often. Coffee lines move more quickly than pastry lines. This is because humans, despite their infinitely absurd caffeine orders, know precisely what they're going to get. Go to bakeries more often instead of once a month when a new viral pastry debuts, and you'll quickly achieve that expanding brain meme state of knowing what type of sweet you want. Or if you're a joyous and carefree spirit like me, who goes to bakeries to be delighted and surprised, maybe don't hop in the line until you're done with your merry browsing. Here's what I want to say, my friends, and I could not agree more with Ryan Sutton in this case, because I myself have the most horrendous line karma that there is. We're all blessed or cursed with a certain karma. I can find a parking space and park like a pro because I have parking karma like nobody's business. I can hail a cab, I can find one, I can get around because I have that kind of karma. But when it comes to lines, my friends, given a choice, I will invariably and inevitably choose the wrong one, no matter where I am in the world, no matter what the institution, no matter what the situation. If it's at a bank, I'm behind people who are bringing in bags of pennies to be counted. If it's at a toll booth, I'm behind the guy whose card doesn't work and doesn't have the right change. If there's a line forming anywhere and I have a choice, I'm going to be on the wrong line. But one of the things that can't help but piss you off is when people have been standing on line for 15 freaking minutes, and then when they get to the head of the line, don't move and don't know what to do. This happens to me at the airport. How is it possible that people do this? Literally, you're standing on the when you come in the country and you're in the passport line that is snaking around with 100 people, and you get to the front of the line and like you're not looking for where the open booth is. Move it. Anyway, sorry to get excited, but the point is it's the same with menus. My God, people, you're looking at menus for 10, 15 minutes, know what you want to get when the time comes to order it. How much time do you need? And if you don't know, don't get on the line until you know. Number 2, limit your questions and conversation. You know how ice cream shops only let you have like 2 samples? At bakeries, you get 1 question. Sorry, that's the rule. But you get a second if the name of a dish is nonsensical, or if the dish has stuff in the center and the menu doesn't denote what kind of stuff it is. Jelly donut is one of the most flagrant examples. Like, okay, what kind of jelly are you talking about? Blueberry, raspberry, mulberry? Related, he says. If someone ahead of you is getting too chit-chatty with the staff, a polite stare or eye roll is appropriate. After that, a gentle, "Hey, we got people waiting here, buddy," is a simple way to diffuse the situation in a non-confrontational way. Number 3, be reasonable with requests. Do not ask for more than 1 separate bag for separate pastries, except on extreme occasions like allergies. Number 4, employ oral discourse instead of hand gestures. Say the name of the dish rather than pointing at something when ordering. The clerk often can't tell what you're pointing at because they're standing behind the counter and don't have the x-ray vision that allows them to see through multiple rows of pastry and wooden shelves. If you're worried that you're not going to pronounce a multisyllabic dessert name properly, don't be. Just say so and make an effort, or go by a description of what it looks like and ask. Number 5, limit your bulk purchasing. You shouldn't deprive others of their morning croissant because you forgot to place a catering order for your cocky's only executive accounting offsite. A large order is defined as anything you have to read off a piece of paper that's over 6 items long. Instead, make that order in advance. Number 6, be prepared for disappointment. I've seen pain au chocolat disappear well before noon, so don't make a stink to the cashier if bakeries are sold out of things. These bite businesses do not generally employ supply chain algorithms to let them know precisely how many danishes they'll need. Order something else made with butter. And number 7, you are allowed to cut someone who's in a daze. Full stop. Well, you want to read that one? Although I just read it to you. It's in Eater. Oh, let's see. What else is here? Recipes. Oh, Crowd Cow. I did mean to say this, by the way, and I want to just segue over to the meat thing. Last week I had the pleasure of interviewing the founder of Crowd Cow. And I love what they're doing over at Crowd Cow. They're allowing you and me to have access to craft beef by essentially owning a piece of a cow that's raised on a small, farm somewhere without all the usual chemicals and pesticides and all the other stuff that they inject into them, like they do at your giant mainstream, beef factories. I think I remember him saying that, well over 90% of the meat that we consume in this country is coming out of 4 giant companies that mass produce meat. When you mass produce meat, my friends, the primary emphasis is on cost optimization from their perspective, right? How do I get the most yield for my cows and get it out into the world? When you buy meat from Crowd Cow, or no, not from Crowd Cow. When you buy meat from any kind of very small, artisanal, private, farming operation, livestock operation, you're generally going to get a better piece of meat. Crowd Cow is doing that. You could find it at crowdcow.com, but don't. Because your real move is to go to crowdcow.com / all you can eat. Right? This podcast, all you can eat. Because if you go to crowdcow.com / all you can eat, not only can you buy a piece of livestock, of craft beef, not only can you have it delivered directly to your door, my friends, but you can get $25 off your first order simply because you're a listener of this podcast. crowdcow.com / all you can eat. Take a look at the website. See what you like. I'm on it right now. It's everything from steak to heritage kind of pork. I'm sure you can get chicken, but man, and if you're interested, get in touch with me. I'm easy to find. You can get me at shortorterdad@gmail if you want .com, and I'll go in with you. I'm happy to buy a piece of a beautiful, pasture-raised, clean, unprocessed, unchemicalized, unbullshitted cow and have a beautiful piece of steak delivered in a week or two to my home so that I can do it up right. One of the things I mentioned on last week's show in my conversation with Joe was that generally, the better the quality of the meat that you get, the less you really want to do. I mean, look, this is my philosophy about food. And anyway, any of you who know me know, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, my philosophy about cooking is this: get the best ingredients you can, don't mess them up too much. It certainly applies with steak and beef. A little salt and a fire essentially is what you need. People talk a lot about salt and pepper. I will say this about pepper: I don't put it on when I'm grilling steak or anything I do. Say I don't put this pepper on in advance. Maybe that's me, but I kind of don't want to heat or cook the pepper, but I'm perfectly happy getting a nice kosher salt on a ribeye or on a sirloin or on a filet, whatever your choice is. Cook the heck out of it. Meaning, when I say cook the heck out of it, I mean like a grill on both sides. Bang, bang. I don't mean cook the heck out of it. That's wrong. I mean sear that baby on both sides. And the rarer the better. I have no problem with medium rare. If you're a real wuss, you'll go to medium because you don't want a lot of flavor and you don't want a lot of juice. I'm not going to look down on you. Anything beyond medium, I'm not cooking for you. I love you, but I ain't wasting steak on someone that's cooking it even beyond medium rare. It's I don't know what you're eating at that point, but you're not getting the true flavor of the meat. I mentioned this because I said that the exception to the rule was that there are certain cuts of meat, and they tend to be your less expensive cuts of meat. And here I'm thinking about your skirt steak. I'm thinking about your flank steak. I'm certainly thinking about your hanger steak. In these particular cases, coming off the grill, I don't actually mind having a dipping sauce. Stay away from your ketchup. Stay away from your A1 steak sauce. That's for rookies. That's for amateurs. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like a vibrant green sauce. I'm talking about a chimichurri made with parsley and made with oregano and made with red pepper flakes and made with vinegar. It's sprightly. It's bold. But you know what? A little dip of a nice grilled piece of hanger steak and that's fine. Anyway, I mentioned that as a segue into the New York Times today article from Allison Roman called "Bringing the Bistro Home." That's a good thing. Bringing the Bistro Home. She basically is talking about the fact that she cherishes the relationships that she's developed with the butchers at her local meat shop. And part of that is because she went in looking for, as she said, a cut of steak that wouldn't break the bank, something she could easily casually sear for a quick weeknight dinner without sacrificing tenderness and good beefy flavors. One of my guys, she says, at the butcher shop recommended hanger steak, which I had cooked before and loved, but never thought of it as an affordable replacement for anything like ribeye. Well, it is. Although, I'll tell you what, I mean, hanger steak, also known as the butcher's cut, and take it from me, the grandson of an actual butcher, hanger steak, when okay, look, I've been here a while, but in the early days, when I moved back into the city from college, I remember popping in for hanger steak, and it was the least expensive thing that you could find at the butcher shop. I mean, I'm talking about like $2.95 a pound. And eventually I remember it going to $5.95 a pound, but even that was like relatively speaking, was super affordable versus everything else. Well, now hanger steak, I'll be honest with you, I mean, I'm sure it's a bargain relative to, like she says, like a sirloin or a ribeye or whatever like that, but like everything else in life, the price has gone up. But it's a beautiful piece of meat because it is, it's like beefy and like juicy, and it's just yummy. Again, serve it rare and cook it quickly. And what she does here, Allison, is she offers up on her recipe here in the Times. Let me just grab it right here. The butcher's calls it the butcher's steak with a leafy green salsa verde. Now, salsa verde, which translates literally into green sauce. Like I said to you, the chimichurri is like a parsley, oregano, red pepper flake, garlic, vinegar type of sauce. You can certainly add cilantro into that if you want. What she does here, what I thought was interesting, was she takes a pound and a half of hanger, skirt, or a flat iron steak. You need salt and freshly ground pepper. And then she uses scallions, kale. She's doing a leafy green salsa verde, scallions. So she got kale, Swiss chard, collard greens or mustard greens, leaves and stems very finely chopped. You're looking for a couple of cups of that. And a garlic clove. Uses olive oil, a little bit of the canola or grapeseed. That's probably going to be with, right? And then lemon or lime in the half, and then flaky salt, and serves it with potato chips, right? So season the steak with salt and pepper, set aside. Cut up the scallions 2 inches pieces, set aside. Finally chop the remaining scallions and add to a medium bowl with kale, garlic, and olive oil. Season with salt and pepper. The mixture won't exactly be saucy yet, but if it sits but as it sets, the kale will soften and loosen up. Heat canola oil. That's what she's using it for the steak, and over medium-high. Add the steak and cook without moving it till deeply golden brown on one side. That's 3 to 5 minutes. Flip the steak and continue to cook till equally brown on the other side. 3 to 4 minutes. Transfer the salsa verde to a large plate and place the steak on top. Add remaining scallions to the pan, letting them sizzle in the leftover fat. Season with salt and pepper. Cook until wilted and charred 2 or 3 minutes. Let the steak sit for 5 or 10 minutes. Allow it to rest, and the juices begin to mingle with your salsa verde. Slice the steak. Return to a plate with salsa verde. Top with seared scallions. Squeeze lemon or lime on top of everything. Sprinkle with flaky salt. Serve with potato chips, like in lieu of French fries at a bistro. Doesn't that sound good? It did to me. That was one recipe that I saw. Now, another recipe that I picked up is from the master himself. Also showed up in the New York Times, like one of these quick weeknight meals. It's chicken and mustard sauce. The description, the notes here. This healthy yet elegant weeknight chicken dish came to the Times in 1988, courtesy of Jacques Pepin, the legend. It's simple but loaded with flavor, like that. And you can throw it together in about a half an hour, like that. And here's the part I like the best. Not too many ingredients. Come on. Just saute the chicken until golden. Then make a quick sauce from onions, water, and mustard, and reduce it until it's thick. Serve with rice to soak up the sauce and a crisp green salad. If white meat is not your thing, it would be equally delicious made with boneless chicken thighs. Just be sure to add a few minutes of cooking time. Ladies and gentlemen, white meat is not my thing. Just in general. And that's fine. I'm not going to hurt anybody for wanting it. But on this very weekend, my very own daughter asked me, there was a whole crowd of people I was cooking for. She wanted to get something that felt like it was lighter and cleaner for her friends, so she brings me a package of chicken breasts, and I go blank when I see chicken breasts. I don't, I said to her, I don't even know what to do with it. I don't even, I see chicken breasts, I see no flavor, and so I don't, but here's the job. Here's my job, because I'm a good daddy, and because I want to please her, and I'm thinking, again, get the best ingredients you can, don't mess them up too much. Most ingredients, fewest ingredients, that is, most flavor, fewest ingredients, least effort, that's my style. So I had already made some lovely garlicky mustard vinaigrette, so I take the breasts, I hit them up with the mustard vinaigrette before they go on the grill, then I grill them, and when they come off the grill, guess what I hit them up with again? Mustard vinaigrette. And so you have these lovely grilled chicken breast pieces that are in a mustardy vinaigrette. Nothing wrong with that. So with that in mind, I give you the Jacques Pepin recipe. And again, what I like is the minimum number of ingredients. I have written a cooking book, my friends. Why? Because, and it's the same reason that I do a podcast. I mean, yes, I have had a love affair with food since the very early days, as I like to say. Yes, I've eaten in over 3,000 restaurants on 6 continents. That's fine. So I have plenty of experience with the consumption of food. And further to that, I have a professional culinary degree with over 600 hours of training, which gives me an understanding of food that I'm able to impart with 2 predominant themes in my work. Get the best ingredients you can, don't mess them up too much. And then my user-friendly formula for getting the most taste with the fewest ingredients and the least effort. Hence, I bring you chicken and mustard sauce via Jacques Pepin. 6 5-ounce chicken breasts, skinless and boneless. Wow, this guy's really taking away the flavor, but that's fine, because we have salt, freshly ground pepper, a tablespoon of vegetable oil, any kind of neutral oil here, 1 cup of onion finely chopped, 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 cups of water, 1.5 teaspoons of dry mustard. You've seen that, right? Coleman's, is it Coleman's? Yeah, English, like a dry mustard. And then he uses a tablespoon of Dijon, right? So, you know, you season here we go, I'll give it to you like. Sprinkle the meat, the chicken that is, with salt and pepper. Heat the oil in a large skillet over medium heat when it's hot. Brown the chicken for 1.5 minutes on each side. Mix in the onion and continue cooking for another minute. Sprinkle the flour on the chicken pieces, turning them so that all the pieces are coated. Cook 1 minute to lightly brown the flour. Number 5, add the water and stir to dissolve the flour until the mixture comes to a boil. Now, lower the heat, cover the skillet, and boil gently for 5 minutes. Remove the meat to a serving platter and keep it warm. Cook the sauce to reduce it to about 1.5 cups. Mix the dry mustard with the Dijon mustard and stir until smooth. Stir the mustard mixture into the sauce and heat, but do not allow the sauce to boil after the mustard has been added. Place the chicken pieces in the sauce and warm over a low heat for up to 15 minutes to develop the flavor, and then serve the chicken with the sauce. If you didn't follow that, it's okay. Concept is easy. You're searing some chicken, and then you're throwing in some onions, and then you're putting in some water and flour, and then you're getting in some mustard, and then it all kind of comes together. But just look up, let me go right to it. Go to the New York Times, and you look up, I can't find it, but it's basically Jacques Pepin chicken and mustard. Now, you got some, what are we looking at, 8:45? Hang on, it's time for a sip. Everybody take a sip, like a drinking game. Watermelon margarita. What's the key? Fresh watermelon. Some fresh lime juice. Some sweet element. It could be agave, or it could be like a Cointreau. And then it's a fine tequila. And I find that generally that the best tequilas to make the margarita are your silver tequilas. 100% agave, sure. But tequila, silver, rather than the gold, the añejo, and the reposado, you don't really need that for the margarita. I turn your attention now to matzo ball soup a la mexicana, which shows up in the Times today because we are getting close to the Jewish holy days in September of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and one of the things that you'll always expect to see at these Rosh Hashanah dinners is matzo ball soup. It's a thing of beauty, I think, in a way. Chicken broth filled with these giant kind of spongy balls. Well, there's 2 types of matzo balls, right? I mean, like your good ones are fluffy. You know what I mean? They hold their shape, but they're delicate. And then the not so good ones are leaden. They're like what happens if, like, you have a tennis ball, right? But the tennis ball ends up in the pool. And so now the tennis ball is like heavy, and you gotta like smash it against something to wring out the moisture part of it. But that said, all matzo balls are like pizza. There's no bad matzo ball. I'm just saying, if you had the choice, go light. Here's the thing. I'm never making matzo balls. And the reason for that is because in the name of most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort, there's too many things on it. Matzo ball, matzo meal, salt, baking powder, eggs separated, and onions, rendered fat. And 1,000. My eyes are closing from all the ingredients here. So why am I telling you about matzo ball soup a la mexicana? I'm telling you because I'm fascinated by the kind of cross-cultural, by the kind of mixture, by the kind of combination of the Mexican culture and the Jewish culture here. And so here the description is the chef Fanny Gerson, who I believe grew up actually in Mexico and grew up Jewish in Mexico. The chef Fanny Gerson's spicy, dynamic take on a classic matzo ball soup is a staple of her Rosh Hashanah table. The broth gets a bright kick, from green chilies, cilantro, and garlic. Now, this just sounds so great to me. I just need somebody else to make it for me. But maybe that's part of this. If any of my people are listening, the broth gets a bright kick from green chilies, cilantro, and garlic. The matzo balls are blended with onions and fresh herbs, and use an extra large pot to prevent the balls from overcrowding. Let me just tell you something. You don't want your balls overcrowding. And the finished soup is garnished with even more onions, chili, and cilantro, plus, here we go, avocado and lime for freshness and color. The broth calls for 2 chickens, even though you use the meat from only one of the chickens shredded into the soup. Ms. Gerson says using 2 chickens boosts the flavor of the broth. Obviously it does. And you can use the meat from the second one the following day for enchiladas or tacos. I will not read you the entire recipe. As I said, it's a little complicated, but know this. No matter what you're doing, if you want to jack up your matzo ball soup this holiday season, serrano, peppers, leeks, what else? Onion, shore, minced herbs, serranos, cilantro, avocado, the flavors of Mexico in your matzo ball soup. You want to look this one up. It's called matzo ball soup a la mexicana. You find it in the New York Times, I believe, in today's publication. Let's see, where are we? Where are we at this hour of 8:50? What is on the agenda? Oh, yeah. We have a choice here. We're going to have to... I'm working without, not that you couldn't tell, but working without the script. And in this case, I have 3 things in front of me. One is about rum, and I don't think we're up to that. That we can do at any time. And I like a rum, but it's kind of not high on my list. I think it's I think it's great, but I'm not doing the rum thing. On the other hand, before we, rather than jump into more recipes, there was another article that showed up recently in Eater, and it is in search of, New York's essential calzone. Now, I don't think it has to be local. I don't think you have to be in or from New York to get a calzone. But it reminded me of, again, I think tonight's theme is like, what are the things that are kind of underappreciated? Whether or not it's a particular cut of steak or Greek food. In this case, when we go to a pizza place, we're eating pizza, like almost 98.8% of the time. But I was fascinated by the love affair that this Bill Addison has, September 4, right, yesterday. He publishes an article called In Search of New York's Essential Calzone, a summer quest for the underappreciated dish, gave me a better understanding of Brooklyn and my place in it. Sweltering afternoon, author ends up in front of De Farah, which is easily one of the most famous pizza places in the country at Brooklyn. There should have been a line at 2 o'clock. There wasn't. He orders a piece of pizza, and then he orders a pie. And then a moment after the guy took his order, handed the ticket to the cook to make the pizza. He says, "I spotted my favorite word in the Italian language. It was so far down on restaurant's wall-bound menu that it was half obscured by a plastic bag full of oregano plonked atop a tall can, but there it was, calzone." "Hey, can you make my pie a calzone instead?" I asked. The counterman turned to the baker, who on this day was a guy named Robert Lee, not owner Domenico DeMarco, who first opened the shop in 1965. He says, "You able to make this guy a calzone today?" Lee glanced at me over his shoulder. "Yeah, I can do that," he said. Right? So now, half hour later, I'm reading. Lee pulls his bronzed sculpture from the oven, finishing the presentation with a slash of olive oil, some sprinkled cheese, and a few basil leaves. The calzone spanned most of a large pizza tray. As DeMarco does, Lee had snipped the edges of the dough into rectangular shapes. They brought to mind crenellations along a castle rampart. The behemoth curved into a slight crescent, and from one angle it resembled an eagle with spread wings. There must have been 2 pounds of ricotta encased in the crust. The hot drifts of cheese swallowed up the sliced sausage rounds and the strips of roasted red pepper I'd requested as fillings. I asked for a side of tomato sauce, and in this case I used the calzone's molten center almost as a dip, slicing off the crenellations with knife and fork, spearing some sausage or pepper on, or both, and dragging them through the cheese, and then the sauce. I couldn't polish off more than a third of the thing. Lee slid the calzone into a massive to-go box, and I carried it back to my summer sublet across the Brooklyn Museum and shared the rest with friends, reheated for dinner at their apartment that afternoon. You know, and so, oh, by the way, calzone translates as a trouser leg, a wonderfully visual descriptor conjuring its original form. Americans know the calzone mostly as the baked, oversized, cheese-seeping construct. In its 18th century Napoleon roots, it was a more manageable, portable turnover, take-it-to-the-streets variation on a pizza that might be baked or fried. So you've turned the pizza virtually inside out and improved upon it with the addition of some ricotta, for example, and whatever other ingredients you want to put in there. And I'll tell you, I got a lot of foods I like. The top of my list is pizza. And that's why, by the way, I'm guilty too. 99.9% of the time I go to a pizza place, I'm eating a pizza, and yet this really makes me want a calzone. Doesn't it, though? Like that, it's like a half moon, a pie, crusty, on the pizza crust covering the entire outside and inside, mozzarella, ricotta, maybe some sauce, maybe some sausage, maybe some pepper. It is a beautiful construct. It is a beautiful construct. The one thing left here on my list in the few minutes that we have remaining, my friends, is from the current issue of Food and Wine magazine, which you can get online. And I was checking it out because it was 30 recipes to make in September. Now, we don't have time to do more than 1 or 2, but let's take a peek down and see what's appealing. 30 recipes to make in September. Oh, yeah, like right off the bat, I got to be honest with you, hot dogs with cheddar and sauteed apples. Why? Because we can all do that. I'm not even looking at the recipe. I'm looking at these hot dogs that have cheddar and sauteed apples, but they're on these rolls, but they're pretzel rolls. I mean, you look at that and you go, I mean, that's really kind of all I need. A nice hot dog, some cheddar cheese, and even that with mustard would be fine. But here that they've thrown in that other ingredient, I always like to think there's like one ingredient that elevates a dish to the level of sublime, and in this case, it's your sauteed apples. How complicated is that, my friends? Cut up an apple into slices. You throw it in a pan with some butter and some sugar, and you have yourself some sauteed, well, in this case, candied almost. I mean, he's saying sauteed, or whoever the recipe author is sauteed. Saute means that you're just going to toss them around the pan a little bit. But I think generally sauteed apples require just a touch of sugar and butter. That's how you're going to saute them. They go on a nice pretzel roll with a good grilled hot dog, some melted cheddar cheese, and for my money, a nice spicy mustard. I have no interest in Grandma's lasagna. I mean, I have an interest in Grandma's lasagna as long as Grandma's making it. I am not. Let me skip down. Peanut butter and jelly, granola, blah, 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 rack of lamb, artichokes, complicated. Oh, this is cool. Speaking of apples, white wine baked apples. So here's what's great about this, right? You're going to bake some apples. All you have to do is take out like the middle of them. As if you were going to make an apple pie. You don't even have to. You don't need the butter, and you don't need the crust, and you don't need the flour. You just need some decent apples, which are coming up this time of year, right? Takes no time to throw together, and it's pretty great. Maybe it has to do, it says here, with the fact that besides apples, the ingredients are butter, sugar, and wine. Right? So literally in a pan that's going in the oven are apples, sugar, butter, and wine. Life is good, baby. Bake that up, serve it with either whipped cream or ice cream. And finally, at this hour, I tell you what, here's the truth. We don't have time to do more recipes right now because we find ourselves, my friends, at 8:58 p.m. And in the remaining minute, I want to just express once again here on podcast number 26 of All You Can Eat that it's my pleasure to be here with you. I thank you for tuning in. I will remind you that if you're interested in the idea of most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort, there is my book called Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. Further to that, if you want to share some super beef with me, you're going to go to CrowdCow/All-You-Can-Eat, $25 off that first order. And until I return next week from Europe, in fact, assuming that technology over there works, this is Rob Rosenthal reminding you that life is short. So never
I'm the Teflon
waste.
Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on